So again, this attack took place just yesterday. Let me show you the headline from Reuters. They say death toll from Kramatorsk missile strike rises to 57, according to Ukrainian officials. So the death toll from a missile strike on the train station in Ukraine's Kramatorsk has risen to 57 people, Donetsk region governor Pavlo Kyrylenko said on Sunday. So he said that 109 people were wounded in the attack, which Ukraine has blamed on Russia. And Moscow has denied responsibility, saying the missile was Ukrainian. So again, I'm not gonna tell you, I'm not trying to make your mind up for you. I'm gonna give you, the facts, what both sides are saying, and you make your own mind up, and you draw your own conclusions from that. I think this is the most sensible thing to do. So, as I just told you, the Ukrainians are blaming the Russians, right? Because just logically speaking, the Russians are the ones with all of this firepower. The missile itself is Russian made, right? The Ukrainians, they don't have that industry, at least not now, as an independent country. But does it necessarily mean that the Russians fired the missile? Because, you can go to, Liberia and find a Kalashnikov. It doesn't mean that a Russian's firing it, just because it's a Russian weapon, right? So we have to look at what the facts are here, and what people are saying. So Scott Ritter, who, again, he was banned the other day from Twitter. They banned him again. They literally banned him again. He's, again, former United Nations weapons inspector, and he used to be an intelligence officer in the Marine Corps. He knows his stuff better than I and you. So he was saying that the trajectory tells you everything you need to know, because the way that this missile works is, before the warhead, the part that explodes, the payload, hits the target, the booster falls off. The booster is basically the compartment that carries the fuel. So it breaks off before impact, and just by finding that, you can sort of establish the original trajectory and find out which direction it came from, right? And also, it has a serial number. That's also very important, because that way you can trace not just the make and the model of the weapon, of the payload, but also what batch it was. And then when you know what batch it was, you can look to, was that batch sold to the Ukrainians? Was it sold to someone else who gave it to the Ukrainians? Are the Russians in possession of this batch? So you can do a lot of things with this evidence. And so here are some pictures on social media of the Toshka U rocket that hit Kramatorsk. So people have been posting the serial number, right? So 91579. And they're saying also that there was another Toshka U missile that was used in 2015, and it has a very similar serial number. So basically their point is that they come from the same batch. That's what people are trying to insinuate here. Let me show you some more over here. Again, lots of people comparing this to the one used in 2015. So they say if you compare this number with the number from the rocket from Kramatorsk, you can see they are not just from the same series, but even from the same military unit. Now, Scott's reasoning, again, he's banned, so I can't fetch the photo that he posted, which is ridiculous. He said that if you just take one look at this map, you'll understand. And his point was that the missile could have only been fired from the Ukrainian side because there are no Russian troops there. Right, and given where the booster fell off, and the assumed trajectory, it looks like it came from the Ukrainian side. Unless you think that the Russians somehow went behind enemy lines and had fired it. Again, I'm not telling you my opinion. I'm telling you what other people are saying. People who are experts in this field, and I'm showing you what the evidence or what the pictures we have are online. You draw your own conclusions from this. Let me show you something else over here.
We have just arrived in the center of Kramatorsk.
While reporting on the tragedy in Kramatorsk on April 8, the British reporter unwillingly gave away a crucial piece of the puzzle. Every missile has a unique marking, so once known, it's easy to pinpoint where it came from. Later that night, Italian reporters were able to get a better look at the Toshka U missile. Take a good look and remember the unique number. This is exactly the missile that killed people in Kramatorsk yesterday. There is no point denying it. This is a video shot in Alchevsk, Lugansk People's Republic, on February 2nd, 2015. You can find it on YouTube. A Ukrainian .U missile was intercepted that day and later documented. Now take a good look at its unique number. Now let's compare the two. Even their serial numbers are exactly the same. It's really a good thing that many Ukrainian and .U missiles fired on Donbass over the 8-year civil war have been documented. Now let's look once again and compare the two missiles. They differ in only the last 2 digits, which leads to a conclusion that they were manufactured in the same batch. Isn't it time to ask the Ukrainian Defense Ministry once again?
You know what I was just thinking? This reminds me of those, like, if you went on YouTube in 2006 or 7, you would find like those Tupac conspiracy videos. Like, if you look at this album cover or zoom in over here, and you look at the triangle over here, Tupac is in Cuba. No, but seriously though, like, to be completely serious, there is something to this. And here, just to show you where Kramatorsk is actually, right? So you can see on the map. This is in the Donbass region, and you can see, if we go back to the Reuters article, who was giving out the death toll and the number of wounded. It's the governor of the Donetsk region. Now, this is important because people have also said, the Russian side have said that why would Russia fire a missile on its own people or its own allies? Because the entire premise is that, well, in the Donbass region, you have ethnic Russians, Russian speakers, these, the new breakaway states, the Donetsk People's Republic, Lugansk People's Republic, have explicitly asked Russia for help, right? And Russia's coming in to help them. So it makes no sense for Russia to fire a missile at its own allies and at its own people. That's their argument, right? It's not my argument. I'm just presenting you what everyone is saying. Now, just going back to the serial numbers, one thing that I would add, this is a war. People lose weapons all the time. If you look at ISIS in Iraq, when they came into Mosul and they came into they're just a few miles away from Baghdad, what jeeps did they have? American jeeps. They had Hummers, right? They had American guns, because they basically took all of the stuff that was given to the Iraqi army, right? Because they're much stronger. They committed heinous crimes, against the Iraqi police, Iraqi military, and they took their equipment. So, I mean, technically speaking, you could argue and say that, yeah, this is from the same batch that was fired by Ukraine before, but the Russians could have captured it. There's a war going on. You have troops moving in and out. The front, literally the front on the map changes every day almost. I mean, not substantially, but my point is that if you're saying this was the Russians, you could argue the Russians captured it and fired it. Yeah, but I don't know if that's proof enough. What is interesting though is it does appear to be from the same batch. And again, for me, what I think is interesting is that the mainstream media don't want to talk about the serial number. I don't see anyone really mentioning that in any of the articles, and there are many articles. And that's weird because, in this kind of thing, the whole point is like, who did this? You want to find out. Like, literally 57 people died, 109 are wounded. The first thing you should do is to find out who did this and to prove that. So you would be wondering, well, you have forensic evidence. As I told you, you have the booster, you have the serial number. That's forensic evidence. Why is no one using that? Why doesn't the media mention that? I don't know. It just seems a bit weird to me. Maybe it doesn't fit their narrative. I don't know. The sad thing is, which I said in the beginning, the very sad thing is that no matter who did this, civilians are dying. Like, that's a fact. You can't come here and tell me that this was a military target. It wasn't a military target. These are civilians. And that's very sad because, they have nothing to do with this. And it's always the civilians that are paying the price of the war, whether it's through sanctions or bombs. And that's really upsetting. My personal opinion is I don't see the strategic value, the military value of doing this. If you're Russia and you're trying to win this war, what exactly does this bring you to fire a missile at a bunch of civilians? I don't get the point of that. What strategic or military gain does that give you? You know, the same thing can be said with a lot of other things in Syria, right? Like that those chemical attacks right when the Syrian army are winning a battle. Well, you've won the battle. You like the entire operation has been completed. Why would you use chemical weapons on a bunch of civilians that, again, they don't pose a threat to you? There's literally nothing you gain from that. As a matter of fact, it's actually detrimental because now you've given NATO a reason to come and bomb you. And so here, you know, it's basically like, yeah, let's kill a bunch of civilians and give the Western world and give NATO more reason to hate us. And I think there's something that doesn't click here because you have very childish, rudimentary analysis of what's happening in Ukraine, and the entire premise of this, you know, of this analysis is Putin bad, Russia bad. So, like, if you depart from this point that the Russians are evil, then this makes sense, right? It has no military or strategic value, but that doesn't matter because the Russians want to kill civilians because they're evil, and that makes sense. Do you understand? So if that's your logic, which appears to be the West's logic, then of course it makes sense because the Russians are evil. They're sadistic. They're masochists. They derive pleasure from massacring civilians. So of course they would do that. That, you know, and this is very childish. And I mean, just, you know, it's ridiculous, honestly. On the one hand, they want to say the Russians are in possession of, you know, lethal, some of the best armaments, lethal technology like the Toshka missile. So they're a professional army, right? They're not a bunch of ragtag rebels, you know, in the savannah or in the forest or in the bayou, you know, running around with rifles. It's a professional mobile army. So, okay, if they're a professional mobile army, then they have a structure, they have a strategy, they have a mission. Please explain to me why anyone with a brain in the Russian army would order this. Please explain that to me. It just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. There's no value to be gained from this whatsoever. The only thing it does is make Russia look like shit. That's the only thing that this achieves. And if Russia did it, by accident or otherwise, then that's obviously something that, it's a war crime. Like, there's no doubt about it. And if the Ukrainians did it, it's also a war crime. Whoever did that, you know, when you massacre a bunch of civilians indiscriminately, you fire a rocket like that on a civilian area, that's a war crime. And again, like I said, it's very tragic because it's not... you have five children that have been killed, you know, dozens severely injured. I'm just reading to you now from The Guardian, right? And by the way, I should also add that not only are the people who died civilians, but it's a train station. A train station is public infrastructure. So this again further confirms that it's a war crime because targeting public infrastructure, civilian infrastructure, you know, whether it's a dam or a train station, the railways, that's not allowed. So I'm not going to show you any more than that, just to be safe, because of, you know, of the platform. But I've just presented you with what people are saying, what both sides are saying. I'm curious to know what you guys think. I'm not here to make your mind up for you. I think you should make up your own mind and you know, draw your own conclusions from this. And again, the other thing that I would add, the very last thing that I would add, the last couple of days we've seen that thing at Bucha, right? We're seeing every couple of days something new like this, and yeah, these things absolutely happen. But I'm struggling to understand the military or strategic value of it. I mean, either the Russians are completely evil, like, you know, they want you to believe, or like they're implying, or they're complete idiots and they don't even know how to use their own weapons and they're just like firing them. You know, it's one or the other. That's the only conclusion that they leave you with, and I don't really buy it. I don't know. There's something missing here.